So my idea is that perhaps we could use spreadsheet or Excel to do some patterning in algebra. So I'll go over some of the basic features of spreadsheet first, just in case, and we go from there to see how it goes. Okay, so if you hit, I'm using Mac, so I say Command, but if you're using on Windows, you would probably do Control. So I hit Command A right over here. That would highlight all of the cells. So what I want to do, for example, is if I wanted to create a grid, so we could use a grid for any kind of measurement activities or anything like that. So I could go to borders and go for all borders, but I don't want all of it to be black, so I may want it to be sort of slightly lighter grey. So I hit light grey 1 and hit all, and I know that if I print it, I can see all of these lines. And you know what, I also want them to be sort of more squarish, so with all of the cells highlighted like this, I could just move my mouse and do something like that, and then it actually moves all of the columns that you see, and then I now go for rows, and then I just move it like that, and I can just play it around, and you can have sort of a grid that you can use. And if you print it, for example, if I go for print, you can see that I just created a grid paper, which is great. Okay, so what else can I do? Well, you know what, I don't want it to be squarish right now. I want my cells to be a little bit sort of small, thinner. What about something like this? So, okay, I'm gonna get out of my Command A, so I just click quickly. So what if I want to play around with numbers? You know, the great thing about a spreadsheet is if I do 1, 2, and let's say 3, right? And if I highlight 1, 2, 3, and if I drag it all like this, I just keep on going, voila! And it actually does something like this, so you don't have to type 1 and a 2 and a 3 and 4, which is amazing. So I'm going to get rid of that, just undo. And what else can I do? What if I wanted to do something like that, January? And if I drag that over here, you can have all of your months, which is great. And if I wanted to do something like dates, so that you can keep track of your schedule. Let's see, today is May 7th, 2020. Oop, no, 2020. And if I drag that, see, it goes like this. And even if you wanted to do like Thursday, you could drag that on, and then it gives you all of the days, which is really fabulous. Just saves you a lot of time. So I Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. I can just clear all of that. So patterning. So I'm gonna go Command A again, and just gonna make sure all of the columns of sort of equal size like that. Okay, so what can I use Excel? How can I use Excel to do patterning? Okay, so what if I wanted to, you know what, like create some patterns? You could use the highlight features and then go, well, wrong button, reset, this one, like that. Okay, so I'll do, this is blue. I'm clicking the wrong button. I'm going for the highlight option, highlight cell option. Blue, blue, oops, there, blue. And I'll say this is my term 0. This is my term 1. This is my term 2. This is my term 3. And this is my term 4. Okay, and then I can create patterns to see what I want. So, okay, I just want my blue to be my constant. So I will leave the term 0 as that. And what if I just made it green? Like, let's say I have 2 greens here. And for this one, I just have 4 greens. And then I have, let's say, 6 greens. And now I have, whoops, something like that. What do you think? And I'm not sure whether this would work. Sometimes it does. Will it work? No, it doesn't work. It just repeated it. Never mind. Command Z. Okay, so you could play around like this to create more patterns. For example, if I actually copy this, whoops, copy this, apparently copy, Command C, and ooh, that didn't work. Okay, Command Z. Okay, I think I have to go here. Okay, like that. Command B and turn that into term 5, and I can highlight here. Oops, greens, and then you can sort of create patterns like this. So it's instead of using tiles, you could actually use Excel to create patterns like this. And great thing about it is that you don't have to take pictures of it. You can just save the spreadsheet and that is there for you all the time. And if you wanted to change the pattern, you could do something like, okay, I want it to be growing at a different rate. I want my slope to be different. So I'll add I want my patterns to be going by 3 each time. So I highlight this part, Command C, Command P, and I need to add more rows up top. So I could go insert 1 row above, insert 1 row above, and something like that, and add more. There you go. And I need to add more rows. And if you actually copy it like this, and say insert 4 above, you can insert 4 rows above. Okay, let's check my patterns to see what in the world is going on. So this is going by 3, going by 3. I have way too many here. So I'm going to reset. There you go. And I need 1 more right over here. So I have growing by 3, 3, 3, and 3, and 3. So that's something that you can play around. If you want to change your constant, you can go down. Oops, went too much. And I can insert row above like that. And that would allow you to, you don't have to click anymore. You can just drag it. You can just drag it. You can just drag it. That you could have actually done exactly the same thing with the greens as well. Like that. Voila, you changed your constant. And let's see, I'm going to highlight all these rows and I'm going to say insert 4 above. And what if I want my patterns to grow by 4 each time? Then I can just drag it, drag it, drag. I'm just add something like this, and I am going to. So let's see how I did. So I have 2 blue tiles as my constant, and the pattern is going by 4, 4, 4, and 4, and 4 each time. So that's something you could play around using Excel, just create patterns. Slightly easier probably than trying to play around with Google Drawing. So this is one way that you could create patterns using Excel. So that's one way, and I have a few other ideas, and I'll be back. So, right. What if you wanted to create another page? So there's this little plus sign right at the bottom on the left hand side corner. So you press that And okay, I created 2 extra pages, doesn't matter. So there's sheet 2. So of course, Excel is very useful if you're doing any kind of data management. And I'm just gonna go through that very quickly. This one is probably more straightforward in terms of what people are familiar with using Excel spreadsheet with data management. So I'm gonna go over very quickly. So let's see, what if there were 6, 7 people conducting an experiment. It could be any kind of bottle flip activities, tossing of a coin, anything. And let's suppose that they're collecting some kind of points. So I'm going to just randomly type in some numbers. Let's see, just making up numbers right over there. All right, so what if you wanted to sort the data? So you highlight the 2 columns and then you right click. No, you actually don't right click. You highlight the columns and you go to data. And after you go to data, you go down to sort the range. So you highlight the 2 columns that you're going to be using, you go to data, and you go to sort the range and click. And you can choose which column you're going to use to sort the data. So for me, I don't want to sort this data by name. I want to see who got the highest point. So I go to column B and you sort. Well, it says A to Z, but it also means the numbers will be sorted smaller to larger, if I understand correctly. So you sort. See, smaller to larger. So if I wanted to do it backwards, you go back to data, sort the range, Z to A. That means the numbers on column B would be sorted from largest to the smallest. So column B, Z to A, and you sort. And you now know that F got the highest point at 72. So that's something you could do. It's so much easier than trying to work it out using a T-chart or pen and paper. So that's one thing you could do. I have a wonderful, wonderful, fluffy and fuzzy and very shedding corgi. So what if I wanted to, well, before we decided, my spouse and I decided to get a corgi, we had to figure out, okay, how much money do we have to save so that we can get a corgi from a reputable breeder. Okay, so you could do that kind of calculations you can do some kind of accounting and all that kind of stuff using Spreadsheet. This is extremely useful, and what I'm going to show you is I'm going to just create a very simple problem and I can show you like how you could use this. Okay, so what if I decided, you know what, and my starting point, I have, let's say this is monthly and this is total. And starting point, I have no money, and so total is no money. And of course, if you're doing some kind of algebra, you could think of this as your time 0. So I'm going to put that right over there. And what if, you know what, I'm going to actually insert 1 column to the right, and I'm going to actually show you, if you highlight this like that, and you could go to format and you could merge cells, and if you click on it, I don't want to merge, I can merge all, but it's just horizontally, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I just merged these 2 cells. Okay, so and let's say I want to find out starting 2020 January, and once again, if I do something like this, there you are. You could go from January to December, and now it is going to be 2021. And let's say how, well, you know what, I'm gonna go why don't we go to December? There you are. Okay, just as a starter. All right, so let's say I realize that, you know what, with the money that I'm making, I can put away $200 every month for a corgi. All right, so I say $200. So every month I'm putting down $200. So what I could do is, once again, you don't have to type in, copy, paste. You don't have to do Command C, Command P for the entire thing. You could just drag. And I know that I'm putting away $200 every month. Okay, so of course my total is going to be $200 plus whatever you had before, right? So for here, this is a very, very cool part. So you can, instead of you calculating with a calculator, you can let the spreadsheet do the calculation for you. So just so that it's slightly easier to understand, I'm going to actually do something like this and go to all borders. I'm going to do the borders in black so you can see it like this. All right, so here you can do it two ways. I can do equal sign, and I can do open parenthesis, and I know that my first cell is E2, so I could type in E2, and I have to add, I want to add D3 to that, plus D3, and I will close parenthesis. So I'm adding what I'm putting away this month plus the total from the previous month, and hit enter. And a magical part of it is if I drag it, it should do the calculation automatically. However, I will show you another way to enter the data. So I'm going to go back. So you could do equal sign and open parenthesis, and you could just tap on the total and it actually enters the cell number for you, and you just type in plus, click on the other cell. You don't have to type D3, it will just enter that for you, close parenthesis, and enter. And it would say $200. And I'm going to drag this right down. Voila. You can see that it's adding $200, it's growing. You can see the difference. If you are not sure about the difference, you could always calculate that difference as well, but I will go over that in just a minute. But you can see that, okay, 200 to 400, 400 to 600, you can see that the numbers are growing by 200, of course, because I'm putting away additional $200 every month, and Excel did the calculation for you. And to calculate the difference, if you weren't entirely sure and you just wanted to double check, so you could do equal sign, parenthesis, and I want to say, you know what, so first I want to take this number as my base, and I want to take away my previous number so I can see what the difference is, and I want to do the same for all of the numbers, and you can see it will calculate the difference for you. So you know that the numbers the pattern is growing by 200 each time, because of course, if you are thinking of this in terms of like a term, you could keep on going down to term 24, I think, because I have 2 years here. And if I see, okay, I needed to have $1,500 before I could afford a corgi. So where do I see my $1,500? It's right over there. I can even highlight my little cell. This is when I will be able to afford my corgi. So that's something that you could do. Okay. So, but what if you think, you know what, I have forgotten about the fact that I actually had saved up $400 from before. And instead of wanting to save $1,600, I want to be able to afford 2 corgis. That means I need to have $3,200. So what happens then? Okay, so starting point now is different because, sorry, monthly, it didn't have to put 0 there. Total, oh yeah, I do, because that was starting point. Starting point is going to be now 400, right? So this is the amount of corporate. I haven't changed any of my calculations. And total, I know now is 400. Did you see that it changed automatically? Yes, it did. Now, because it's accounting for the starting point, that is 400, in an algebraic expression, you can think of that as your constant. And your slope hasn't changed because the difference from the next term number minus the previous term number, that's still 200 because the pattern is still growing by 200. But your starting point has changed. So that would be, if you're thinking in terms of graph, that's your y-intercept. So it changed automatically. So what if you started off with being in debt? You may have to pay back your sibling or something like that. What if you started out with having minus $400? Now you can see that it also updated automatically, and to get to 3,200 I have to wait until June of 2021 if I wanted to have 2 corgis. Wait, it's not $1,600, it's $1,500, so 3,000, May of 2021. And of course the difference hasn't changed. So this is something you could do, but what if you need to think of the money coming in and money going out in terms of other expenses? Okay, so I wanted to see, okay, instead of just getting $200, knowing that I have $200 coming in, what if I knew that I have some money coming in, but I have some monthly expenses that I have to pay out? So I'm going to insert, oh, whoops, that's not what I meant. I'm going to insert 1 to the left. Okay, so monthly, this is going to be monthly in, and this is going to be monthly out. So what about that? So what if we knew that monthly in is going to be, you know what, let's do $400 for that. We have, you know what, $1,000. What about that? $1,000 coming in every month. So, oops. And I would just expand this. Okay, so I have $1,000 coming in. However, I have all sorts of different bills. So I have to pay, let's say, $850 every month for various different expenses. Maybe rent, phone bills, gas bills, electricity, whatnot. Okay, all right, $850 every month. Oops. So that's not my starting point. Okay, so $850 every month, and that won't change. Okay. So at the starting point, let's say you are starting out at being in debt, minus $400. So and I want to insert 1 to the left. So first I want to find out the difference so that this is actually money that you have every month. So what do? I go equal, open parenthesis, I take this column minus, at this cell, D3 minus E3, right? So that would mean that I know exactly how much money that I'm getting, and I'm going to just expand that as well. So I'm actually, my actual money that I have that I can use every month after taking away my expenses, that's $150 every month. So now I will change this calculation. So I want to add G2 and, oops, for this one I want to add G2, which is here, and not D3, but I want to add F3. So I would take this away and change to this one and hit enter, and that updated the whole thing. No, it did not, but I will drag that down so it would update. Here you are. So let's see when I can get my corgi. That will be right over here. I can get my corgi when if I'm making $1,000 every month, but if my expenses are $850 every month, and if I have actual $150 I can put away as savings, that means then I can get my corgi after January of 2021. Alright, so graphing, let's see whether I could manage this. Alright, I'm going to just make sure that I have all of the data to the end so I can get this sorted. The in, monthly hour, difference and total. And also, this is also a cool trick. So you know what? Sometimes you're going down and like, what are those numbers? I don't remember. For that purpose, you could freeze panels. For example, I go first row and first column. Then when you go down up and down, you are not going to lose your sort of the titles of your columns and rows. So when you're looking at the numbers, you know exactly which number you're looking at. So you could turn this into a graph as well. Okay, so I have so many different data, so it's not going to be as pretty as it could be. So I will show you how it could look like on this one, and then I'll create something slightly simpler data so we could play around with the graph. So you go to Insert Chart. Oop, because I did not. Whoops. Alright, I forgot to select the data set. Okay, so let's say I go there you are. And I selected all my data set, and then I'm going to go for Insert Chart. Okay, so that's a little bit very clunky. What if I said instead of a bar graph, I want a line chart? Okay, so now you can see sort of there's monthly income that is actually the same. That's the red line. Monthly out, that is a yellow line. That's your expenses. The difference, I have two differences. Of course I have two differences. The same is right over here. That's $150. That's the money that you can actually put away. And you could see this is the one that I actually wanted. You can see it's cool because when you hover it, you can see all the dots. And that's the line that you were looking for. That's the total amount. It's a growing linear pattern. And if you have a grid, you could also calculate, okay, what is my slope? You can see your run, you can see your rise, and all that stuff. Okay, so that's that. So let's see whether we could create something slightly simpler to play around with data. So I'm going to do term 0, and let's say term 1. It could be the pattern that I created right over here as well. So my constant was 2, and the pattern was growing by 4. Let's do that one. Okay, so let's do up to like term 12. Seems like a good. Okay, and I'm insert one above. So this is, I'm going to title it, this is my term number, and this is going to be total tiles. Okay, So I started out at 2, right? Because it was this pattern that we were looking at. And it's going by 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 each time. So go back. So what I'm going to do is I know that the pattern is going by 4 each time. So instead of actually writing that down, I'm going to go here and go to equal and open parenthesis. I know that there would always be blue tiles, right? So I'm going to do this one, this column. And B2, you always have to add B2, and I'm going to go plus 4 for this one. And you click. There you are. And then you know that the number is 6. So for this one, I want to go equal, open parenthesis, and I want to add 4 each time, right? So I will go, this is B3 plus 4, and I'm going to now just drag and expand. Here you are. So you know exactly how many tiles that you're going to have. And of course, you could freeze panels as well. You could do these things. And you could play around. For example, you could bold these as titles. You could have all of your numbers appear in the middle if you want, or to the side, it doesn't matter. And now let's see whether we could turn this into a, oh, you know what, I'm gonna, of course, let's view, freeze. I'm going to freeze the first row, right? So this is always gonna be there. Okay, so I want this little section to be my graph. So I go to insert chart, and see times 0, total times, it just the spreadsheet just created the graph for you. And I could change the title, let's say my pattern representation, or something like that. And if you hover over it, you can move it around. And also, if you wanted the grid lines, you could sort of, I want my minor grid lines to be, let's see, like that, 5, no, let's say 10. So you could actually see. There you are. So just to go over one last time, okay, so that was monthly in and that was monthly out, and I calculated the difference in the middle, and then I did the calculation for a total amount afterwards. But you could always do this in one step as well. So I'm going to get rid of the differences. So I just cut it, delete column. Okay, so it's saying that error because I just taken away the important part of the calculation. So I'm going to fix this. So I'm starting out with being $400 in debt, and I want to see how much money that I would have at the end of the month of January of 2020. So I'm gonna, okay, so what I can do is I can open parenthesis, and I know that I start out with earning some money, but I have to take out my expenses, right? But I also have to account for the money that I'm already borrowing, so I add this at the end, and I'm already, close parenthesis is already there, so I just tap. Okay, so I just did the calculation in one go. And of course, I just drag this all to the bottom and it will show, okay, for this one, if I'm looking at 2020 January, this accounts for how much I earned, how much my expenses are, and whatever the money that I already either have in my bank account or that I have in debt. So if you don't have any debts, and actually if you have, let's say, $1,000 and $600 already in your bank account, you could update that and I would account for that as well. And of course, for this calculation, I use the monthly income and monthly out to be exactly the same for simplicity's sake, but in real life, of course, the amount that we are making each month and the expenses would be different month to month. So you could always update, you know what, I worked extra shift, or I was sick and then I didn't work as much, or anything like that. And of course, it would account for this, and this would be a great way to keep track of your accounts and your finances as well. Let's say your expenses were a little smaller this month, much smaller this month, a lot more because I went on a trip, anything like that. So I think knowing how to use spreadsheets would not only help with your understanding of patterning and algebra, but I think it would really get you in the habit of keeping track of your money, which is really important when you get independent. And so I highly recommend trying this out. And if you ever use this in your classroom, I'm very much looking forward to the report as to how it went and etc. Thank you very much for listening. Bye bye.